Hello and welcome to Screen Views. I'm Dave.
I'm James.
And this is the weekly podcast where we give our views on a film and TV show.
Each episode is unscripted, unedited, so anything can happen. Listeners should be aware that we do include spoilers, so feel free to fast forward, rewind, or simply buckle up and enjoy a somewhat coherent conversation.
Our podcast is based on the idea that there's no such thing as a bad movie. Therefore, for every review, we'll give a recommendation instead of a rating.
But first up, we're going to have a quick discussion about what we talked about last week to see if our opinions have changed. Okay, here we go.
Hello.
We're back with vengeance.
Another day, another podcast.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah. So this is a TV podcast. Welcome back. Last time we did Arrested Development.
Yeah.
We've been doing really well with TV. I don't watch that much TV, so like when we do these TV reviews, I'm literally like a drug addict condensing all TV within. I don't know if drug addict condense the drugs. I don't know, but I'm just condensing all this TV in like one shot. I'm like an espresso addict at a coffee shop, rather than having lots of teas and coffees and having like mega espresso shots.
A shot.
Yeah.
You're taking binge to the next level.
Yeah.
Espresso level binge.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Has been attentive. I
like that once again our analogies always like linked to food or drink.
It connects us the whole world. Okay, we may be languages apart. We may be so different to so many people, but one thing connects us: it's food and drink. We all need to survive. So. Yeah.
Have we spoken about our worldwide audience on the podcast?
No, I think so.
Okay. Well, if there's anybody who's listening from not the UK, hello. Because we have got hits in like America, Canada, Brazil, China.
Yeah.
There's people out there, James.
Yeah. Hello
to those international listeners.
Yeah. You want to send us like free tickets to come see you? Feel free.
Yeah, free flights. Yeah, don't cost much. Just
we'll pop over.
First class, obviously.
Yeah. Cause,
we can sign some shirts when we get there.
And if you do invite us over and pay for our tickets, we will do a personalized podcast for you on the way there. So we'll record a podcast while we're travelling to you.
Yeah. When we get there, we won't bother in anywhere. We'll be on holiday. So
you got a free podcast out of it. It's personalised for you. So yeah.
Something to do on the flight as well. Kill a bit of flight time. That's good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Arrested
Development.
Re-review of Arrested Development. Have we got anything interesting, new to say? Any opinions? Any thoughts?
I think so. I know Jason Bateman has got a new Netflix series coming out.
All right.
So I haven't really heard about that many films from him.
Yes.
And the person who plays his son, I can't remember his name.
Michael Cera.
Yeah, is that the son's name? The
George Michael.
Yeah. He's on a YouTube channel called Hot Ones, where they bring in celebrities and they start eating hot wings while answering questions.
Right, a bit like comedians in cars getting coffee. Yeah.
But
which is on Netflix and worth a watch.
Used to only be on Crackle, and I was like, I watch Crackle, and then no one else watched Crackle, so they.
It was on YouTube as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was on Crackle before YouTube, and then it went on YouTube, and then went on Netflix.
Netflix evolution of a show, a bit like Arrested Development. Actually.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things in season 4 that they start doing is they put a watermark courtesy of 20th Century Fox on stuff that's a flashback from previous episodes that were before they were on Netflix.
Well, I go on YouTube and I watch random stuff on YouTube, and it's like one thing I watched was like dramatic age differences between couples, and I was like, okay, and normally and then Ellen, who is like 57, I think, I might be wrong, is going out with the sister character on Arrested Development, who's in her 30s. Who's in the 30s when?
Oh right, okay.
So there's like 15. There's about 15 years difference.
Who, when you say Ellen
DeGeneres.
Yeah. I thought that's who you meant. But
yeah.
So who is in an episode of Comedians Getting Cars?
Yeah.
Getting cars in coffee?
Yeah, getting cars with a cup of coffee. Yeah. So I've not really looked back on the show, but that's all like that's the show related sort of gossip I've heard in the last like week.
Yeah, I'm just sort of waiting for the new episodes to come.
Yeah.
It sort of said that they're coming, but they're not. And I should have done some. This is the podcast lack of research.
Yeah.
Like, we do really need to be a bit more. Well, I say I need to be a bit more professional with my research, because we should have found out when the new episodes are coming for this review section, shouldn't we?
Yeah. But yeah, if there's no more episodes, they need to finish off the storyline at the moment, because I can't remember what the last episode I watched was, but it didn't really feel like an ending.
No, it's just we spoke about this on the previous episode, I think, with the it was the whole silent movie thing.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really like it either.
Has there been no new episodes since then?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay, that's a weird one to
no, there's episodes coming. I just don't know.
Yeah, but as a mid-season final, if you will, like sort of thing, it wasn't really
it wasn't. Some bits of that episodes were quite good, like Job and Tony Wonder, like spinning around.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah. So there's some elements that are good. And I think if there's anybody listening to this podcast who enjoys a really good sitcom, definitely check it out if you like.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes as well.
It's easy to watch, but it's definitely it's a cult classic, and it is okay to say that now. So I think that is definitely a show that's worth a watch. If you listen to the full episode after you've watched it, then you can go back to our full episode of Arrested.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I want to kind of add some more, but I don't think I really need to say any more, because for me, it's one of the best TV shows.
Okay.
But that's, that is a very subjective opinion, and I acknowledge that. Yeah. So might not be everybody's cup of tea, but
no.
I think if you've not seen it, definitely check it out. Okay.
Okay. Well,
should we move on to this week's?
This week
review?
is a shining sort of show on Netflix.
A glittering,
glowing,
glowing, glittering. Yeah, glow. Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Yeah. I didn't quite get it, but
I was gonna go with it's got glowing reviews, and it's like, and then And then,
sorry, James, I just cut you off there.
And like this,
as I do.
Cinematography is gorgeous. It's like. And it's glamorous, and there's lots of ladies in it, and lots of wrestling. But hey, you know where the joke is. Basically, it's gorgeous girls, gorgeous ladies of wrestling, right?
Yeah. Not glamorous.
Yeah,
as I incepted into your brain.
Yeah.
So gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Yeah.
So, just a quick premise for people who haven't seen it. So this is a show that's is a Netflix original.
Yeah.
And it's done by the same team who did Orange Is the New Black. So you can probably guess where our recommendation might go in a few minutes' time. But the premise of the show is that it's based around an actual TV show that did exist in the 80s. And it's about a lady-focused wrestling show in America. And the TV show centres around the behind-the-scenes of that show, sort of dramatises and also creates humour around the show.
Yeah.
So there is wrestling.
Yeah. It's so basically I watched the first 2 episodes and liked them, but I didn't really like it that much, and then I stopped watching. And then for the purpose of this podcast, we said we're going to review it, and then so I went through. I thought I watched the first half of the season, but I didn't. It was only the first 2 episodes.
Okay. So maybe that's a good place to start. Like, do you know why you didn't take it further than the 2 episodes?
I think so. Even though it had lots of characters in, it didn't really go into any of the other characters as much, and it just relied on the main character, Alison, played by Alison Brie, It and yeah, and I just didn't really care about any of the characters, and it was quite flat. And as soon as you get into the third episode, it changes. I feel stupid only watching 2 episodes and then stopping, because as soon as I rewatched the second episode and watched the third episode, I was into it. I was really into it. It hooked me. So I would say if someone wants to give this a go, definitely just watch the first 3 episodes. Normally on this show, quite often we say, "Oh, it's very consistent. You like the first episode, you like all of them." Not with this one. If you're just okay with the first two, I'll still push through to the third, because it may change your mind and you may be hooked and you may start to really enjoy it.
Yeah. What do you think shifted between episode 2 and 3 for you?
I think what the characteristics of the people don't change, but how the story looks at the characters does change. Which is why I think, why I love the manager character, because he doesn't change through the first episode to the last episode in terms of how the world perceives him and how he reacts and how he is. He comes off very cold and very cold and very.
Do you mean the director?
Yeah,
yeah.
And I loved the way sort of like the show sort of becomes the show sort of like shows you the characters inside and out without actually compromising the characters. Where a lot of the time on shows, if a character's like mean, they'll have an episode focused on them, and then they'll maybe not be so mean in the episode, and you think, oh yeah, I can see a sort of different side to them.
Character development.
Yeah, but what this show does, there's character development in all of the characters already. It takes you so rather than the show telling the story of how these characters are evolving, the show sort of tells you who these characters are, and it also doesn't tell you everything about them. And I sort of like, so from the second episode onwards, it sort of shifts the focus to the other characters, and we get a hint of the background. We get to know some of the background of some of their characters. We get to know some of their influences, but we don't have like a full episode on purely their lives and purely their, which I think the tropes of Orange is the New Black and the tropes of a lot of these shows with like multiple characters, they'll often have a whole episode based on this character and their whole background and everything.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a nice format when it first came out, but it's just become a bit of a trope. And so basically, every time you do that, you pause the rest of the story just for that character. And what I think is great about the show just keeps going. So every single episode, there is a development in the whole storyline and where everybody's going, because they're working towards their main show. They're working towards. They mean like everybody, all the girls and the director are working towards a goal.
Yeah.
So every episode is inching further and further towards that goal.
Yeah, because like season 1 is basically about getting the show up and running.
Yeah.
And then season 2 is about the show being up and running.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of, there is a clear goal, and it does work in that sense.
Yeah. I also like there's everybody's a mixture of grey. I think to Alison Brie's character, she's so flawed. Ruth, the character's name is Ruth. She's so and every single character is flawed. Every single character has something wrong with them. So whether they're aware of it or not, and I think one thing that's great from the director, Sam as the character of Sam, is that he knows he's damaged. He knows it. He's aware of it, but he's still living. He's still living life, and I think he's sort of like he inspires sort of Ruth's character to try and be the same. She'll never be the same as him, and I really like the platonic friendship between Ruth and Sam. I think Sam's always somebody who is sort of like, when he's nervous, he does go into sexual mode, but it's just a defense mechanism. There's a few moments in the show where he's nervous with somebody, and so he thinks that it might be the answer is just sex, but it's not sex, and it's sort of like but underneath it, there is no sort of there is no romanticized. The relationship between Ruth and Sam isn't based on a romance.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what,
it sort of shifts, doesn't it? Like between different, sort of, just like it just feels real. It's quite an interesting relationship that the writers develop throughout the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, you sort of think it's a will they, won't they? But in some ways it doesn't matter if they do or it doesn't matter if they don't. What is interesting is the relationship, the shifts like between them, and how that friendship kind of develops and breaks down and then gets built up again. And it just feels very sort of a good like rendition of a male-female relationship.
Yeah.
Where it's like, can you ever be friends? Can you not? If you're, and like they just, there's a lot of elements to this show where I do think they explore just very humanistic sort of relationships between characters, and so and that's both male to female and female to female. And it is sort of like done really well, because I mean, one thing to sort of say up front is that it's a very female focused show, and what is really good about this show is how it sort of tackles those relationships as well. So it's not just about romance, it's about female friendship, or lack of female friendship. It's about performance. It's about motherhood. There's a lot of really strong themes that they explore throughout season 1 and 2 that I think give the show a bit more weight that is perhaps not there initially. No, because you sort of. I don't know about you, but I sort of went into this show thinking it was going to be sort of a pretty light comedy, which it sort of is, and it sort of maintains throughout. But I suppose, we're always, because of the, it's done by the same team who did Orange Is the New Black, you're going to sort of always make that comparison. But I do think, unlike the exploring each character that they've not taken across, what I think they have taken across from Orange Is the New Black is the sort of drama behind sort of events that go on. So I think up front it seems like an out and out comedy, and that comedy does remain throughout, but I wouldn't sort of put this in the category of a out and out laugh a minute sort of comedy. And so if you're going to compare it to something like Arrested Development, it is very different. Like, I wouldn't describe this show as a sitcom. So I think if you lock into this show thinking that it's going to be a sitcom about wrestling, it's not the right show for you, because that's not what it is. It's very much on that sort of drama side as well. Okay, sorry, go on.
I just think it's definitely drama. What I like about it is like the amount of story it hasn't shown you yet. I mean, like there's one character and they call her She-Wolf, and I love the fact that as an audience member, I need to do some work in order to figure out who she is, and the revealing who she is and little twerks and what she's thinking, and because you have to sort of understand what all the other characters on how they're reacting to her and what they think of her, but you also have to look at a little side shot. You also have to look at the little way she shifts. You also look at the way is she uncomfortable because she doesn't like the situation, or is she uncomfortable because it's a new situation for her? And I love the way they don't make it obvious at first in terms of like which character, what is she feeling at the moment, because she doesn't say that much. She's not talkative,
and it's not an expositional show. It's quite, the dialogue is very well written.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really well directed, because you have these elaborate sort of wrestling sequences, and they must have put so much work in that regard, and so it sort of blends the going in and out of the show sequences, like really, really well. And I think that is something that should be definitely commended with the show, is that it doesn't patronize the viewer, and it is really, really well written and directed, and it's just executed so well.
I mean, well, it's spoilers, but it's one thing which I need to say how much of a genius idea of it is, the having the one episode which is literally only an episode of Glow.
Yes.
From start to, I think you had like about 3 seconds at the end where it wasn't
in the second season. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, that for me was like a really standout episode, and is a really, really bold choice to do that. And I think just the little touches, like they change the aspect ratio, and it sort of starts off and you think, oh, okay, this is going to end in the next few minutes, and it just keeps going and keeps going. Really, really bold moves that this show makes, and that for me was a definite standout episode.
I think because it's so much about character development and so much about the characters behind the stage. You don't sort of like, it's really hard to appreciate what they're actually doing for the camera, what they're actually putting together. And so you see Sam and how he's been passionate about writing, and we're seeing clips of them rehearsing, but we don't actually appreciate it. So just having an episode just to appreciate what the audience and how much they're putting into it and how much they are doing different stuff. And like, and I think that was after the episode where they say, well, let's just do what we want to do. No more handcuffs, no more boundaries. Let's just do what we want to do, and then to follow up with an episode of exactly their vision. This is a collaboration of all their thoughts, and like, I thought that was like a standout episode. That was like amazing idea.
And I think for that episode, it's like worth watching this series almost just for that. I wouldn't say skip to that episode, because out of context of the 2 seasons, it doesn't really make sense. I think you need to have like sort of watched the first season, and definitely need to watch things in sequential order. You can't jump in and jump out of the show. So that's maybe something worth noting. But definitely worth watching the show just to get to that episode. And
I also sorry, good.
No, I just think like I think you're only going to be disappointed with the show if you go into it thinking that it's going to be something different. So that's why I was making that point a few minutes ago about it's not a sitcom. It's not a Big Bang Theory. It's very much a sequential sort of drama with humour. I'm sure there's a genre for that, but I can't think what it is off the top of my head at the moment.
IMDb says comedy drama sport.
I suppose that's it. Comedy drama, isn't it?
Have you ever
or
thought
dramedy? Do they call them dramedies? Is that
dramedy?
Is that the like
dramedy? A sport dramedy. If you ever thought like, oh, I want a sporting dramedy.
Yes.
Then Glow's the one for you.
Glow is the show. Well, because it is worth noting that there is a lot of wrestling in the show. They don't shy away from the wrestling aspect, and that again is quite well done. And I think somebody was telling me that one of the actresses is an actual wrestler.
I think it's the Viking, maybe.
No. What's she called? Tammy, who's the welfare queen. Coming aboard. Yeah. So she's played by Kia Stevens, who is an actual wrestler, apparently.
I would have gone with like I say, I would have gone with like the Viking because like I know she's I know maybe it's just prejudice. 'Cause I'm not really into wrestling, and so just like different body size, different body shapes, and what I love about this show is that it embraces everybody in every single body shape. But I don't really know that much about wrestling, and so what I see with wrestling is like big, strong bodybuilding men, and but also I think it's weird how big like a larger man with a lot of fat can still be seen in society as very strong. But I don't know, maybe it's just my prejudiced mind. I don't see a larger woman as very strong. I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe
I
that's
get
wrong.
what you're
Maybe
saying.
that's wrong.
Well, I mean, I suppose the portrayal is often that they're sort of strong-willed or, a good mother figure, and sort of, like you say, physical strength maybe isn't a part of that character stereotype.
But physically, either part. Like, if you can use your weight with your rest. Well, when it comes to fighting, it's muscle, and it's also being able to use your weight. It's about pushing your weight behind your punches, and so a lot of bigger people can cause more damage because they are bigger and they're bigger, and so. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. I thought her episode was quite interesting with the son, because it's sort of like his son sort of like starts to analyze what she's doing, and because she describes her character and who she is, because but that's so demonizing. That's do you know how offensive that is? Like no, that's not an inspiring thing to do. And she says, oh no, it's different. If you see our live show, you'll see it's not the same. He goes, well, I'll see your live show then. And as the mum's wrestling, he's sort of like, we could tell that he's sort of seeing all the things that he thought he'd see, but it's even worse. And she's looking at him, and she's disappointed with herself. And it's a really like, it just becomes really emotional. But later on, it's sort of like when the mother and son meet up again, the son sort of confirms that everything that he was worried about is actually happening and is even worse, but also highlights other stuff, like highlights how he's never seen his mum like that. He's never seen her with so much strength and so much, just that vibrance, that much life. And it's really nice to have a positive come out of that. It's really nice. It's not only, you can't change his mind about what he disagrees with, but he can see the other stuff. And I think I was sort of like sidetracked, as well as the audience was sidetracked, as well as the mother sidetracked. We didn't think that he would be able to see the good, and he does see the good, and that's kind of cool. It's kind of nice, because what I love about this show is not all black and white. It's not all right and wrong. There are elements of grey, and you just have to seep out the good stuff with the bad stuff. So I like that. I like the fact that she didn't change she didn't change her son's mind completely, but she still came out of it, and she still came out of it quite empowered, and still came out of it being a proud mother, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the show explores motherhood in some very interesting ways. Certainly through that character, but also through the Debbie Egan character who plays Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell.
Yeah. So
I don't know why she puts on the accent.
Well, because she's supposed to be the all-American, blonde hair, blue-eyed, like all-American girl, isn't she?
Yeah.
So that's why she puts on the accent, which I'm really tempted to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Attempt, but I think I'll hold back on that one.
Sorry, go.
So her. There's an exploration with her and her relationship with her child and divorce that is all explored in some interesting ways.
Quite a lot.
Because she's sort of seen as the star of the show, because she's got a name and she's done previous work, and her relationship with Ruth is quite interesting, and again explores motherhood and sort of sisterhood and just relationships and those kind of difficulties of doing a full-time job and raising a kid and going through a divorce, and it's all done in a very three-dimensional way, which is what you're talking about, like not being just black and white. It's a very three-dimensional show in terms of characters, relationship, dialogue. It's just sort of really well done.
Yeah, it's one character which I started to really enjoy by the second season, and basically he's a producer.
Bash.
He doesn't really play that much of a character in the first one. It's really in the sidelines, and it's really quite one-dimensional. But I love the way we start just seeping more elements of his character within the second season. I don't fully like that character yet, and so I would have won like a whole episode or him to take a main part of an episode. But it's getting there. They're slowly building the character up for me. I kind of like that. So
I do also like how characters sort of like are mean to each other, but yet they're bonded in various ways as well. So there's the two granny wrestlers who essentially steal one of the other wrestlers' ideas, and there's, so for a moment there's kind of tension put in there, but it's interesting how characters are able. It is a bit more like real life, how like characters kind of try and get over some stuff they can't get over, other stuff
I just have to deal with it.
And it's like it's not like I don't know. It's just done really well.
The woman who Milena Rosen, played by Jackie Ton.
The one who's in Orange Is the New Black.
Is she in Orange Is the New Black?
Yeah,
as well? Okay, cool,
I think
cool.
so.
I didn't know that. She's quite interesting because she comes across as clearly a spoiled brat who's always had everything that she's clearly comes from a money background, and she's not used to people telling her no, and she clashes quite a lot with everybody, and slowly you start to realise how much this is important to her as well, and so she subdues that aspect of her personality quite a lot, but every now and again it does burst out. The rest of the name is Melrose, Melanie Melrose. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think that's quite an interesting character, because by the end of it, she isn't like a completely changed person, and there are issues with her, and she still has issues with clashing with people, but I think she finds just a small group inside the bigger group, which just allows her to be her a little bit more, and I don't know. She's and I get the feeling that she, because she was known for sneaking off quite a lot and just going for like a night out and just doing, I don't know, she, I think she's grown quite a lot, but she's not completely changed, and like she is the spoiled person who will not really think about other people's feelings quite a lot, and yeah, I don't know, I love the way it sort of sticks to its guns, the show does, and it doesn't completely change characters. It slowly evolves them, and more we get to see more sides of them to understand them more. I really enjoyed it. I thought Kate Nash's character was quite interesting, and how they started her off as like an awful singer, and then slowly throughout the series, her singing's getting slightly better. Even though I know that she's a singer, and I didn't realize it was her at first. Yeah. Like I go back and realize she's in the first episode, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I think. I think what is really interesting is how the show is all about promoting stereotypes, and how the characters are always in conflict with that promotion of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yet they sort of embrace it in some ways and then don't in other ways, and it's sort of it does get you to think about how society like creates these kind of stereotypes and how they're played out in shows like wrestling or the media, and how it's not always the people portraying those characters that are 100% okay with it. It's nice to sort of like think that, well, like I'm doing this because I need a job, and I know that it's not okay, and deep down like I'm at conflict with what people are asking me to do, but at the same time I want to perform, I want to do it, and it's just an interesting sort of exploration of that kind of, so along with the kind of feminist aspects and the race aspect, it just sort of gives those extra layers to a show that you can kind of start to unpick and engage with.
Well, I really realised, I was like yesterday, I realised, even though we won't ever see it, it'd be interesting to see the hotel manager, what he's going to feel like now all these girls have gone from his hotel. Because secretly he did act sort of grumpy, but I think he really enjoyed having people around, and I think he really enjoyed Ruth's character a lot and having that sort of attention. And and you see that he's quite lonely, and like when we first see him, he's just chatting to the random pizza boy. But then throughout, he's sort of like, they complained that one time that he's bought them like, basically with the room comes a continental breakfast, and basically it's a couple of muffins without plates and coffee, and I don't know, you could just tell that he really enjoyed doing that for them. It wasn't like great, but he really enjoyed just, I don't know, he's enjoyed being around people who are happy, and I get the feeling that no one that he knows is sort of happy with him, and it's all a bit grumpy, and it's all a bit, he just feels like quite a down person, and like I love the way we won't see his story again because they're no longer in that sort of environment. But
spoiler.
Well, it's
I think what sorry, just to jump in there, but I think what I did really enjoy about this show was that I thought that the second season was better than the first season potentially, because of the sort of bold moves that it makes, and I just sort of think that they kind of nailed the characters and their different relationships. It might be that I've just forgotten how good season 1 is, but often with the kind of Netflix shows, especially like they try and get the second season out like sooner rather than later, and I think sometimes that.
Well, could I watch them all in one go? I don't know. I love the fact that the first scene of the second season is the direct morning after the first season finale. I kind of like the fact that it feels like this is straight away,
right?
Because straight afterwards, like the next day, they take a group picture together, which I'm guessing is sort of like an Easter egg. I'm guessing there's a picture of the Glamorous the original Glow team. I'm guessing there's a group picture in a sort of similar sort of scenario.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm assuming that's like an Easter egg thing. Oh, cool, that's there.
There is a documentary, I think, on Netflix as well that you can check out. So if you do like this show and you sort of agree with our opinions about it, you might be able to, you can explore that documentary. I've not seen it, but it might be give you something additional to the.
I love the way different characters react to the same thing differently, and so Anna said Ruth's character, she sort of reveals something to one of the female characters, and female characters just goes crazy and sort of like makes her feel horrible, and then she reveals the same thing to Sam's character. And when Sam initially reacts, it's the same reaction. And then she sort of questions his reaction. She goes, "Oh no, I'm not angry at you. No, that's not at all. No, you're fine. You've done nothing wrong. You're absolutely fine to do what you do. This is why I'm angry." And I don't know. It's just kind of nice because she feels like, I don't know. Because he wasn't reacting for her either. It wasn't to make her feel better about herself. It wasn't to make that. It was just like it was like, damn. Like,
yeah. But that's what I mean about it being like quite true to real life, because that's how things like happen. Like you tell one friend something that's happened to you, and they say, they give an opinion. You're like, you start to think, oh shit, I'm in the wrong here.
Yeah.
And then you tell somebody else, and they're like, no, like you are totally right here. And then you yourself are conflicted. But I know Ruth's not in this scenario. But what I mean is that those different reactions of what you get in real life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that that is done really well. Again, I know I keep saying this done really well phrase in this episode, but I mean, it's a good summary for this show, I guess.
At my old work, we used to have like these like loads of like computer switches like built up on each other, and so one of the co-workers put a switch on, and then the whole shelf collapsed, and these switches were everywhere, and it made a racket, and the floor shook, and I ran over and said, "What's happened?" And he says, "What's happening?" He goes, "I'm really sorry, really sorry." I said, "Okay, are you okay?" He goes, "They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're all good. I'm really sorry, really sorry." I'm like, no. Are you okay? He goes, "Oh yeah, fine. I'm all good." Okay, well that's not important. We weren't doing anything wrong. He was just using the shelves for what they're meant for, and the shelves just collapsed. And yeah, that was kind of interesting, because he just assumed that I was angry at him. He just assumed that I was like, but. No. When someone's doing something right and something still goes wrong, I know. I think some people are just so ignorant and so horrible, they'll just automatically want to blame somebody without actually looking at the whole situation. And I felt like that's what happened with the Ruth's character. It's sort of like, I don't want to reveal what will happen. That's quite an interesting point in the story.
Yeah, it's a good plot point in the second series.
Yeah.
And it sort of links in with, a lot of recent events. Weinstein.
Oh yeah.
It's quite an interesting current way of thinking about. Yeah. Because even the character that disapproves of what Ruth has done or not done, the thing is, you should have done it like this, and this is how you work the power that you've got, and and it's just sort of interesting, like, to think, well, we all sort of see that instantly as like is the wrong thing to do, and you'd like to sort of, but it's just interesting that it, it's difficult to sort of explain this without like sort of revealing what was going. But I suppose we're in the whole spoiler world, so but it's just interesting exploration of like sort of sexuality and power distributions between people in positions of power and people not in a position of power, and how it's used from both sides, and what the character who's angry with Ruth is sort of saying, well, you should have used your power in this way. But that obviously from an outsider's perspective, you're like, well, that's not how it should be. But I do feel like there's a commentary there on how those lines can get blurred in an inappropriate way.
Between Ruth and Debbie, I thought it was also quite interesting the way, because there's one moment in the story where Ruth is sort of like getting along with this cameraman, and they're both vibing off each other, and there's clearly mutual interest there, but then Debbie sort of manipulates her, and sort of like puts like a false impression of who that guy is in her head, and starts to make her doubt herself, and I thought that was quite an interesting sort of that was an interesting sort of like aspect, because as a guy sometimes I just feel like, oh, maybe I'm like the creep, and maybe I'm like but you be brave sometimes, and no, I'm going to talk to them. They might like me, and they might be good, and so while being brave and putting yourself out there, and them after recepting well to it, but a third party is sort of like making you, like, vilifying you, is sort of like, I thought that was an interesting sort of thing to bring up.
Yeah,
and,
again, very true to sort of like relationships in real life. It's just really clever.
But what I love is there's no like defining point of like, yeah, you're wrong, I'm sorry, I'm right. They keep bringing up stuff, but they close off a lot of stuff. Then a lot of stuff is just like an open sort of thing. Well, this is one thing, and this is another opinion, and whichever one you think is right. The show is sometimes just allows you to think as well, which I think is kind of nice.
Yeah,
it doesn't like home the point across.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, recommendation? Do we need to recommend this show for anyone?
Yeah, someone who likes, I would say, someone who likes drama and likes
comedy.
Yeah, and some sport. Like IMDb summed up really well. But someone who likes the comedy soaked within the characteristics of the character rather than the jokes that the character says. There are not that many intentional jokes in terms of like what the characters find funny. It's
more like the process rather than the punchline.
Yeah. And if you like seeing women on film, on camera, and you like seeing the characteristics of women, then yeah, this is a show for you. I think one thing which is
if you like positive representations of female, I think this show is definitely in that remit.
One thing which I think is quite kind of interesting. There is some nudity in it, but I'm trying to think of. I don't think at any point the nudity is sexualized. I think it's just so like there's a point in the first episode where someone's just getting changed, and there's no pauses, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Hey, 1 second, just look at this body part. Look at this body part.
Well,
it's just changing. I thought that
it's
was
not like male gaze pornographic.
Yeah,
which is important. I think.
I noticed most of the directors were women as well. There's a few male directors at the end of the episode.
Yes, I'd forgotten about that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, cool, and that's interesting.
Definitely worth. And I just think I mean. So, like, I think obviously, if you're a fan of Orange Is the New Black, this show is going to appeal to you massively. I'd like to think that if you're a fan of wrestling, you would enjoy this show. Yeah. But I think if you tune in thinking it's going to be an out and out wrestling show, it's not going to hit the what you need there. So I think. I wouldn't necessarily instantly recommend it for somebody who sort of loves wrestling, I do think you could still love wrestling and enjoy the show a lot because it does combine, comedy, drama, and wrestling like really well.
However, I went on a date with somebody who loves wrestling. And she pointed out like, I love like the storyline, and I follow the storyline of wrestling, and basically these shows go all around the world. So sometimes she misses a storyline, so she has to catch it online, and just so she's caught up with when she watches it. And I just thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I watched Glow, and so there is an integral storyline, and they're putting so much development into, okay, what's your character do now? Where did they go, and where did they? And so I didn't realize how much storyline and how much sort of like of a soap opera wrestling is. And so I realized that even though my perception of what wrestling is wrong. And so if you watch wrestling for like the storyline and the drama and all that, and you want to see what it's like behind the scenes and how they created these stories and how sort of the stories merge with the actual characteristics of who somebody is, as well as the characteristics of the stereotype of their own skin or own background. I think that is probably a really interesting. I mean, I'm not a big wrestling fan, but if you're a wrestling fan for that reason, then this show may be perfect for you.
Yeah. I mean, I would I recommend it for anybody and everybody, because I think it's definitely a really bold show, making some really good moves. And so, but it's difficult because I think, like I said earlier, if you're tuning into the show thinking, oh, I'm going to watch a sitcom and it's going to be joke a minute and I'm going to be laughing and it'll be easy to watch, like Friends or Big Bang Theory, this show isn't going to do that. So, I think you do have to get your mind right before you set in. But if you are in the right frame of mind, it is, one of the best shows out there at the moment, I think.
Yeah, definitely recommend it. Yeah. So right. I think, is that the that's...
Yeah, so I think that sums up our opinions of Glow. Yeah. And we should move on to next week. What are we looking at on next episode?
Yeah. It's gonna be Luke Cage, I think.
Luke Cage, yeah.
In terms of TV wise, our next one's gonna be Luke Cage TV wise. So going back into the Marvel universe.
Yep.
Yeah, go back into the Marvel universe and exploring that.
So the Netflix arm of the Marvel universe. So
but the next film we're doing is also
Marvel as well. Yeah. It's not like Marvel's taken over the world or anything.
No.
But so there are other comic book adaptations out there.
In terms of like TV shows, I think the one, I think a couple of things where we might be reviewing. I don't know if we're going to be reviewing Cloak and Dagger, but I've finished that. So if we don't review it, we will be talking about that in the. If we don't review it, then I'll be just mentioning my thoughts, a little snippet of my thoughts in the mini-sode.
Okay. Yeah. So, what was
talk about superheroes?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna go back to Luke. Cage. So, like, what were your sort of thoughts going in? I know you've seen season 2 already.
Yeah.
But what were you prior to season 2? What were you thinking about this show?
I was really worried. I really was. Well, basically, Daredevil season 1, amazing. Love Jessica Jones. Daredevil season 2, amazing. Luke Cage, it started to slow down, but you know what? I've had so many amazing shows already. That's okay. I have to go for a slow one. And then Iron Fist was really slow, and then Defenders was okay. But then Jessica Jones was really disappointed for me.
Season 2, which we did a while back, so you can have a look. I think the episode's called Jessica's Potato Peel Pie. So that was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
And we also did the Punisher as well, didn't we?
Yeah. But I was really worried about Luke Cage.
Was that Punisher season 2?
Season 1.
Season 1.
You think of Daredevil season 2?
Yeah, because Punisher comes into Daredevil season 2.
So I was a little bit worried about how slow it might be, and also I didn't really care about the world which Luke Cage is created. I didn't really care about any of the villains anymore. I didn't really have that much hope going into it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of enjoyed season 1, so maybe we can start off from there in the second in our podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoyed season 1. I don't think it, from memory, it's difficult because it was quite some time when I saw season 1.
Yeah.
So it's not like I had to see season 1 before we can sort of review season 1 and 2 next week.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and I'm gonna sort of hold back a little bit.
Okay.
I think,
cool.
But I would say I wasn't super excited about Luke Cage season 2. I wasn't like, oh no, season 2 of Luke Cage. So kind of want to
see how it goes.
But so tune in for that.
Yeah.
And so this is the point in the podcast where we normally spend about 10 minutes signing off.
We're going to be done. It's going to be good. Cool. All right,
should we try and keep it to a minimum this time?
Yeah. See you later. Join us on Twitter, join us on Facebook, join us on subscribe to us and write a review. Give us 5 stars. Thank you very much. Peace out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done, James.
Go. All right.
Cheers.
Catch you soon. Bye.
Bye.